Sorry. Is there a way? So, what should I tell people? What's the call? Everyone, welcome to our very first Glow Live. So, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be talking about 5 common symptoms children with autism have. Right, one of the most autism is one of the most widely diagnosed neurodevelopmental concerns in children, and as of the last time the CDC released reports stating that it was 1 in 22 children. And so at Glow Pediatrics, we focus a lot on taking care of children with autism and ADHD because we believe that we definitely can make a difference in their symptoms and help them thrive in every area of their lives, and not just them, but their entire families. And so we're going to talk about the very first common one, which is difficulty with social communication, right? Both children and adults on the autism spectrum may struggle with eye contact, like prolonged eye contact, or even sometimes making eye contact at all, facial expressions, understanding social cues, social distancing, conversations you have with children with autism may feel one sided or may feel disconnected. And of course, I should stop here and say that every child with autism is that one child you've met with autism. That's why it's called the spectrum, right? So there's children who are completely verbal and are friendly and outgoing and have a friend group, and there are other children who may have some difficulty with that. And so it's just understanding where your child is and meeting them where they are. And sometimes you may note that your child may seem uninterested in socializing, right? But in reality, they do want to connect. They just communicate differently. And I want you to realize, I'm going to say it again, our children want to communicate, they want to connect with other people around them, they just communicate differently. And so it's understanding that that difference in communication is the key, right? It's understanding that it's important for you to study your child, learn what your child's communication style is, and use that, right? And that's why we encourage children getting into early intervention as early as possible, right? First 5 years of life is critical if you're going to make changes in the way children communicate. And so that's something that's really important to start early on. Speech therapy is amazing for our children with autism, helps them. Occupational therapy is also something that's really important. Applied behavior analysis therapy, or most commonly known as ABA, is something that's so important in helping teach them how to communicate in an improved manner, right? So that they can thrive, like honestly, that they can thrive where they are in their communities. And so the first very common symptom is difficulty with social communication. The other behavior that we often look at is repetitive behaviors, right? It's a hallmark. So you may see if your child has physical movements like rocking back and forth, like movements of hands or hand flapping or spinning objects, or if you notice that your child loves to look at the fan spinning or bright lights that are spinning around, things like that. Those are symptoms, right? And so the other thing to note is that routines are very important. So if your child has a routine, and say they wake up in the morning, they go to the bathroom, and then they eat breakfast, and then one day they wake up and now you're saying eat breakfast and they haven't gone to the bathroom. That that change that unexpected change can be very upsetting, and it can sometimes result, depending on the child, result in like a tantrum or getting upset or crying. And so, as parents, it's important, and as educators, it's important for us to understand If we're going to make changes in routines, because their routines are very important, that you communicate in some fashion to the child that there's a change that's going to happen. And you'll find that things go much, much more smoother, right? When they know ahead of time, oh, we're going to do this differently. And so they can expect the change, and it helps them not feel so overwhelmed and overloaded in a sensory manner. And it helps provide comfort to them, knowing that they know the structure of their day is going to take. And so as parents, as educators, it's important for us to communicate that to our children. Again, they want to connect, they want to communicate. And so it's important that we don't look at them as unable to communicate, because in their own way they do communicate and they are capable of doing that. And so it's just recognizing what how they communicate and meeting them where they are. And so that's key, right, to being able to improve communication with your child. So another behavior or another common symptom that we look at is delayed or atypical language development. And what do I mean by this? Again, it varies widely, right? Because every child you meet is that one child you've met. So some children may start talking pretty early. I've had patients tell me their child was able to say their ABCDs at 10 months. And while it sounds like that shouldn't happen, right? Because typically that's still a baby, but with some children with autism, their language comes in really early and really, really strongly. And sometimes we ask questions like, does your child sound older? Like when they speak, do they sound older than their age? And so that's another symptom that can be found in children with autism, is they sound older than they actually are, right? And some other children may not have language coming at all until very much later, right? We have some children who only start using words at age 3 or at age 2.5. And so that's why it's really important as parents that we are taking note of the things that we need to talk to the pediatrician about, right? If by between 1 and 15 months your child isn't saying one word, or starting to put one or two words together, then that's a conversation to have with your pediatrician, so that again we're identifying concerns early and we can get support on board early. So support meaning like speech therapy, having your child evaluated if their words haven't come in when they should have. So some other things that you can find are that children will repeat phrases over and over. They may not be seemingly connected to the conversation you're trying to have, and that's something called echolalia, and that's pretty common in a lot of children with autism, where they can speak in sentences, but they can also repeat words or phrases repeatedly, and that's something that's noted. Also, even though your child may have strong back and forth verbal skills, right? They can hold the conversation back and forth. Sometimes that back and forth flow can be challenging. They may just put in like a sentence that doesn't quite fit with the conversation you're having, or again, they may have the repeated word phrases, or they may have sounds included in that conversation they are trying to have. And so it's just, again, it's noting all of this and asking for support early, right? Children between the ages of 1 and 15 months, if your child isn't saying one or two words, then it's time to have a conversation with your pediatrician and just say, hey, this is something I'm watching for. And we can watch that till 18 months. But at that point, if language isn't fully on board, like your child isn't clearly saying more than 2, 3, 4, 5 words, then it's important to have that conversation with your pediatrician to ask for a speech therapy evaluation, right? Because I've seen children excel once they can get into speech early. And so it's really important. Early intervention is key. Early intervention is key. I'm going to say it one more time. Early intervention is key. Yes. And so the other common symptom that we see is sensory sensitivities. And what do I mean by that, right? Many children and adults with autism go through they experience the world with heightened or reduced sensitivity to sensory input. So, for example, a sound that seems normal, like a blender running or the vacuum cleaner going in the home or flushing your toilet, it may seem like a normal sound to a neurotypical person, but to someone with autism, that sound can be heightened and they can feel like their eardrums are being adjust. It's like a piercing sound to them, and so you may see your child cover their ears or run away or go to a different room when the vacuum cleaner is on. So those are things to take note of, right, and bring that to the attention of your pediatrician. And sometimes I've heard parents say, yeah, my child can't stand the sound of the vacuum cleaner, but then they listen to loud music, right? And there's the paradox there, but it is true that some sounds can be extremely painful to them, and the same thing with pain, right? I've seen children have almost no pain response, like they can fall, they can break an arm, they can break a leg, and they seemingly will get up and just keep moving like as if nothing happened. And on the other hand, I've seen children who, if they have a paper cut, it feels like extremely painful to them and they have a heightened pain response. So it can be a lower, heightened or a reduced sensitivity to pain, to temperature even. We may all be in winter and cold, and and your child may say, no, I feel hot. So those are things to watch out for, right? And so it's just important to understand like where your child may be, how your child may be feeling and experiencing what seems like a normal sound to you. And so in addition to that, they also will avoid certain textures of foods. I have children in our practice who will have to touch the food or smell the food before they put it in their mouths, and or touch it to their face, or because of the texture sensitivities that they have. And also things like the tags on the shirt, or touching soft material, or you hear a child say, I don't like the feel of jeans on my skin, and so they will not wear jeans. And so it's as parents and educators, it decreases the back and forth that we may have with that child when we recognize and listen to what they're saying and take that into consideration and make accommodations for them, because it is a real feeling to them, and these are common symptoms that they may have. So the last one I'm going to talk about is focused and intense interest. That's very common, and a lot of children I take care of say things like they know all the dinosaurs, right? They can list all the dinosaurs, all the different ways they look, all the different things they do. It can be cars, they know all the cars' names, they know the features of the cars, things like that, train schedules, coding, you name it, right? I've seen children with an intense interest in music, so they know all the musical instruments. They are really good, like they can hear a song and play it or sing it immediately, like word for word, like things like that, right? Those are gifts, and I always point out to parents, right? We want to be students or detectives of our children, right? And to see what are their strengths and then boost those strengths. So if you have a child that's really good, that has an ear for music, or can see a picture and can paint the exact picture, things like that, right? You want to boost those things and just get them as much support around that, right? Because the world needs musicians, the world needs painters. So I always tell parents when I'm talking with them after the evaluation and giving the diagnosis, saying, your child is your child. Your child is still your precious child. So the diagnosis doesn't define your child, right? Every child is precious. Every child has strengths. Every child has gifts. And our job as parents and educators is to find what those are and boost them, right? So that our children can have good self esteem, our children can know that they are capable, right? And every child is that one child with autism. And so I hope this has been helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. And at Go Pediatrics, we are always excited to partner with our parents to help our children be the very best versions of themselves through either with getting early medical evaluations without a wait list. Yes, you heard that right, no wait list. Or we provide holistic care to our children with autism and ADHD by boosting and improving gut and brain health so that our children can thrive in every area of their lives. And the best part is it's not just the children, it's the entire family. So we look forward to hearing from you, and I'm going to be doing this on a weekly basis, coming live and talking to all of you. So have an amazing day. And if you're interested in our either our medical evaluation services and or our holistic integrative care for autism and ADHD, we have a link in the comments, and please click on that link and fill it out, and we definitely will be in touch with you. And please leave any questions you have. I'll be looking for questions so that I can answer them on the lives. So have an amazing day, and remember, you are the very best parents for your children, and your children are valuable, and your children are blessed to have you as parents. So have an amazing day. Take care, everyone.